What in the heck are we supposed to believe about Jordan Love's injury right now?
You are Locked On Packers, your daily Green Bay Packers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Packers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Peter Bukowski, and I cover the Packers for The Leap, a newsletter I would love for you to subscribe to. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter, Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you find podcasts. You will find Locked On Packers, the number one Packers podcast on the internet. And the show for fans who know what happened, they want to know why and how. Today's episode brought to you by our friends at FanDuel, now through September 22nd. So your time is running out. All FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. So what are we supposed to believe when it comes to Jordan Love's future? Because I spent all of last week under the impression that this was all posturing, and that's based on public reporting, that's based on things I was told. It's based on a lot of different data points. And then we get to the game. And Sean Clifford gets elevated on Saturday. Malik Willis allegedly gets told he's going to be the starter on Saturday. Post-game comments from people like Elton Jenkins and other people on the offense say, yeah, we didn't know who was going to be the starter. We thought Jordan had a chance to play, and we didn't know. Rob Demovsky says, this was not a charade. Jordan Love was close. There was a real chance. Now, Diana Rossini reported on Sunday that it was never happening. There was not happening. Tom Silverstein reported it was never going to happen, that he was never going to play. Now, why are we rehashing all of this now? Because we're trying to figure out if he might play this week. Tom Silverstein, who reported it was never going to happen last week, said he thinks Jordan Love could play this week. Rob Demovsky seems to think that Jordan Love could play this week. I've been told there is a good chance that Jordan Love could play this week. I think he's going to practice. Matt LaFleur said he needs to practice now because it'll have been 2 weeks off of practice before he plays, if he can play this Sunday. So you'd like to get him out there, get some action. What are we supposed to believe here? I go back to last week. I think Matt LaFleur is a good coach. I think this is a smart organization. If there is no chance, if as Diana Rossini reported and Tom Silverstein reported, it was never going to happen. And even that could even dovetail with what Rob Demovsky is reporting, that he was close, but the Packers really knew Monday, Tuesday, this was not going to happen. Then why did the players seem to think that there was a chance? And now, if you are a conspiratorial type, if you think it's possible that Matt LaFleur and Jordan Love and the team doctors conspired to keep this from the public, that's one thing. But to then conspire to keep it from the team, or at least to keep the team on message, that is where you start to lose me. That is where you start to lose me. The more people who have to know about a conspiracy and all say and do the right things, the less I'm going to believe it. Okay? So, if it is the case that it was never going to happen and the Packers did keep it from the team, like, hey, they left out hope that the players thought, hey, there's a chance all along. Hey, Jordan's telling us there's a chance. He could play. But that Jordan knew and Matt LaFleur knew and the team doctors knew all along that was never going to happen. To me, That's a mistake. If that's true, we don't know that that's true. I'm saying if that's true. And that's a mistake for a slew of reasons. The first is you don't want to set your team up for disappointment when on Saturday you go, Jordan Love can't go, it's Malik Willis. When everyone knows, all due respect to Malik Willis, who was incredible on 3 weeks' notice, less than 3 weeks' notice. You're doing him a disservice by not giving him the week to fully mentally prepare. And I don't mean just the reps and the protections and the game plan. I'm talking about getting ready to say, okay, I'm starting an NFL game less than a month after I'm arriving in Green Bay, after my old team told me to kick rocks because they think Mason Rudolph is better than me, and that guy Will Levis, who can't stop these incomprehensible turnovers, he's starting over me. If you don't give Malik Willis the full week to get mentally in the right space, if you don't give the players the right preparation to get mentally prepared to say, we're going to run the ball 40 times. Now, Matt LaFleur says the plan was always they wanted to run the ball 40 times. And so, regardless of who was going to play, and it makes sense, right? If Jordan Love is going to play and he's limited, then you want to run the ball a lot. And the Colts' run defense, as we found out, sucks. So it makes sense that you want to run the ball a lot. But you're doing your team a disservice if that's the way you're treating it. If you're really playing this cloak and dagger game with your own franchise. I am choosing to believe the Packers, Matt LaFleur, Brian Gutekunst, are not stupid enough to do that. That they know their team well enough to know that this is a bad idea. And furthermore, and so, I do believe it is the case that the Packers they had candles lit for Jordan Love. They were truly leaving the door open for him to be ready, for him to wake up Sunday morning and say, I'm good, let's go. Even if the team believed there was a 90% chance that was not going to happen, that 10% is worth it for the difference, the delta between Jordan Love and Malik Willis. Even if you have to go in with a game plan where you go, okay, here's all this cool run stuff, and maybe you don't call some of the quarterback run stuff, but all the other cool, reverse pivot, the counter stuff and the ends around and all of these things. Jordan Love could have done that on 1.5 legs. Some of the creation stuff and the boot stuff you wouldn't have wanted him to do, but then all of a sudden your whole menu is open to you on third down and you can create all of those opportunities in the passing game that you would otherwise. The drop back game is open to you in a way that it just wasn't otherwise. I have come to the conclusion that I don't believe that everyone could keep their mouths shut, that everyone could stay on message well enough that they didn't believe that there was a chance that Jordan Love could play. And I don't believe that the Packers as an organization are foolish enough to think that the best thing that they could do for their team is to trick them to play some sort of public game where you're trying to convince the Colts that you might play Jordan Love. I'm telling you, from what I was told, the Colts never bought it. They prepared for Malik Willis. It didn't help, which is almost worse. Like they should be leaking right now. Oh, we thought there's a chance that Jordan Love could play and we prepared for Jordan Love. And then they look a lot less dumb for how they handled all this. And they look a lot less bad for how they played. But that's clearly not what happened. They prepared for Malik Willis. They still got their butts kicked by Malik Willis. And so I think there is at least a 50-50 chance that Jordan Love plays this week. I think there is a better than 50-50 chance, I think approaching 75% or greater, that he plays next week against the Vikings. And I think the Packers got truly the one game that they needed to get with Malik Willis. We'll see where they go from here. One thing that was not great, the linebacker play. We have to talk about that next on Locked On Packers. Today's episode brought to you by our friends at LinkedIn Jobs. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. Today's episode also brought to you by our friends at Gametime. Gametime has a new feature called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets to your favorite live events even easier. Gametime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Curated deals make it easier to find the best prices on great seats. Plus, you get to the seat view before you buy. And with the lowest price guarantee, if you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Game time. 56 linebackers have played 75 snaps through 2 weeks, at least 75 snaps. 56. By Pro Football Focus grade, Quay Walker is 46th. Isaiah McDuffie is 50th out of 56. We're talking about through 2 weeks. It's only through 2 weeks, right? Two of the worst graded by Pro Football Focus's grading linebackers in the NFL. Now, you can say small sample size, but for those of you that were with us in the spring, I went through this when we talked about what a big need linebacker was going into the NFL draft and free agency. In 2022, Quay Walker's rookie season, he was 56th out of 60 qualifying linebackers in Pro Football Focus grade, one of the 5 worst starters in the league. In 2023, last year, he was 52nd out of 66. One of the worst starters in the league. And that means through 2 years in the league, he was one of the worst starting players, not just linebackers, players in the NFL. And that also means that being out of 56, when you are 46th out of 56, you are actually improving over what you have been over the last 2 years. And that's the problem. Is 46th out of 56th is actually the improvement for Quay Walker. Isaiah McDuffie, not much better, right? 50th out of 56. That's bad. Meanwhile, Edgerrin Cooper is 16th in Pro Football Focus grade among linebackers who have played at least as many snaps as he has. Limited to be sure. 18 total, I believe, is the number. So both Quay Walker and Isaiah McDuffie have played 5 times the snaps that he has. That's the problem. You see Eric Wilson go out there and he makes a handful of great plays, has a near perfect Pro Football Focus grade. I'm not suggesting that he play a bunch more snaps for you. But what I am suggesting is if he can do that, if Edgerrin Cooper can do that in limited reps, if Eric Wilson can do that in limited reps, then it's not the scheme's fault. It's not the defensive tackles, the defensive linemen in front of the linebackers. It's not Jeff Hafley. It's the linebackers. And in the case of Quay Walker in particular, who we have this big sample size for, I don't know what else you need to see. And I know people think that I have it out for Quay Walker or whatever. Like, I don't know Quay Walker personally. I don't really know anything about him personally. You want to assert that that I have a personal bias against Aaron Rodgers because of his personality, because of his personal beliefs, whatever. Like, we know his personality. We've seen his personality for 20 years. We know what his personal beliefs are. He is very, very open about sharing those things and then yelling at anyone who does not agree with them. And so that would at least be a valid criticism of like, you have enough information to make an assessment based on something like that. Quay Walker is number 7. He plays for the Green Bay Packers. He's their Mike linebacker. And he has been a bad football player since he walked into the league. The only explanation for someone saying he's not bad relative to his peers, remember, this is relative to his peers. If like we were in a flag football game tomorrow, he'd be the best player on the field by a country mile, right? Like that's not what we're talking about here. In the NFL, relative to his peers, he is just a well below average player. And I don't know what else we need to see to understand that. And I wish that some of the people, not all the people, but I wish some of the people in the building every day on the beat had a modicum of football knowledge and could go to Matt LaFleur or Jeff Hafley and say, hey, what's the deal with these linebackers? This is what happens when you don't have enough people who know ball in that room. I'm sorry. And I'm sorry I'm not sorry. Like, it's part of the deal. So we don't know why. I mean, presumably it's because they don't trust Edgerrin Cooper. They don't trust Isaiah Hopper. And I understand that. Hopper in particular, a raw prospect. I think Cooper in a lot of ways, a raw prospect. But Bryce Young was the number 1 overall pick 18 months ago. He got benched. He got benched yesterday. A quarterback, the number 1 overall pick 18 months ago. Less. About 18. A little less. 16 months ago. Don't be annoying. Don't tell me you can't do it. Just put Edgerrin Cooper and Tyron Hopper out there. You're rotating with Javon Bullard and Evan Williams when Javon Bullard's being good. You're rotating with Sean Ryan and Jordan Morgan when Sean Ryan is playing pretty well. We're going to talk about the offensive line at the end. So why can't Edgerrin Cooper get on the field? Matt LaFleur said he was going to get more snaps. He got less. Now, part of that is game script. It's like 50 plays versus 70 plays or whatever. Like, there was a big difference in the number of plays. And so that is part of it. He just needs to be out there. Let him sink or swim. The best way for him to learn is to be out there. And if you think, okay, he's not a Mike linebacker, he's a Will linebacker, then play him for Isaiah McDuffie, get him out there with Quay Walker, and let him learn. And what you might find is actually you think he can play the Mike. That his growth trajectory is such that in a couple weeks you go, actually, he knows all the calls. He knows where to be. The Mike and the Will, especially in nickel, are kind of interchangeable pieces depending on the front and the motion and all these things. And so he can do everything you need him to do. And he's actually going to be the guy now. This is, and I don't think this is happening right now at guard. I don't think Jordan Morgan is so obviously the better player than Sean Ryan. I thought Sean Ryan played well against the Indianapolis Colts. Gave up the only offensive lineman to give up pressures. He gave up 2. Pressure is also partially a quarterback stat. He was also awesome in the run game, and Jordan Morgan is hurt again. You have to be available. That's part of the deal here. This is not that. This is two players who are playing poorly. And you have two top 100 picks waiting to get a chance. The only way they are going to learn is if you give them an opportunity. So it's time. It's time that they get that opportunity. Speaking of opportunity, the Packers' offensive line, they were frankly disrespected this offseason. And they are showing why right now. We're going to talk about them next on Locked On Packers. Today's episode brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. You've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Well, we have something a little different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then, with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. So, with that bet, you could go Packers plus the 2 in Nashville. A Malik Willis revenge game spot. I like the Packers. I'm telling you right now, I'm going to take the Packers this week. I think the Titans are just an abysmal team. I think the defense can be very good. I think the offense is a nightmare because Will Levis stinks. And I think this pass rush is going to come after him. So go to FanDuel.com and download America's #1 sportsbook. Thanks for making Locked On Packers your first listen. Now for your second listen, go find Locked On NFL now with 2 shows every day. First, the madman Tyler Rowland kicks off your morning with a double shot of NFL espresso. Then stop by the barbershop with Tony Wiggins for some real NFL talk. Find Locked On NFL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. This offensive line, and I said this all offseason, I did not understand the perception that this offensive line was somehow suddenly mediocre. I understood last year the run blocking was not where you wanted it to be, but this was a top 5, top 10 pass blocking group. Pass block win rate, Pro Football Focus grades, whatever you wanted to use. And we had every reason to believe they'd be better. Zach Tom, year 2. Quay Walker, year 2. Elton Jenkins, 1 more year removed from major knee surgery, and then you bring in Sean Ryan and you draft Jordan Morgan. So one of those guys is going to be a functional NFL player for you. I didn't understand why people thought this offensive line was going to be materially worse than it was in 2023. And in fact, I think it is better because this is a better run blocking group. Tucker Kraft helps that. Luke Musgrave, I think, has taken a little bit of a step as a run blocker. This receiver room is willing to block, but Zach Tom, there are 3 tackles in the NFL who have played as many snaps as Zach Tom and have not allowed a quarterback hit, a sack, or a pressure this year. Zach Tom is one of those 3. Elton Jenkins has also not allowed a single pressure this season. On the list of offensive linemen that have not allowed pressures, the Packers are the only team with 2 guys on the list. So this was a really, really good pass blocking group last year. Why were they going to take a meaningful step back? I understand Josh Myers is not a great player, but he played last year. So what was the thought process? I never understood it. It looks even dumber in retrospect. Quay Walker is still, kind of an up and down player. Did not allow a pressure. Leatu Latu, first round pick. Kwity Paye, he played. You've got DeForest Buckner on the inside. This Colts group got after CJ Stroud. And that offensive line that people think is going to be really good. Remember, pressure is also partially a quarterback stat. And DeForest Buckner was singularly dominant. I understand he was hurt. The Colts hit, not just pressured, hit CJ Stroud in week 1 10 times. Ten times. By the way, the Texans, for reference, hit the Colts twice. Hit Anthony Richardson twice. The Packers shut down a really, really good pass rush. And on the ground, absolutely nerfed them. Dominated this football game. This was a game where the Packers really were talking about this should have been 23, 26 points. And really until the end, that late touchdown didn't really matter. So we're talking about a game that the Packers really played well enough to win by 3 scores with their backup quarterback almost solely because they were dominant in the trenches. A handful of nonsense penalties. There were a couple, well-called penalties, I suppose, too. But this offensive line was dominant, and they were very good against a very good Philadelphia front. Zach Tom erased a very good group of edge rushers. Rasheed Walker didn't play great in the first half. I think footing played a role. He found his groove in the second half and then was really good against the Colts. This is one of the best young tackle groups in football. And even with a rotating cast of characters at right guard and a center that you don't really believe in, it's a top 5 offensive line. So what are we doing? Why was there this kvetching and oh my God, like this idea that the Bears had a better offensive line than the Packers? Are you serious? Like that was out there. I remember hearing prominent podcasts with people that I thought were smart talking about, well, the Jets have a better offensive line. The Packers, middling. They're like the 14th or 16th or 15th best offensive line in the league. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? Did you watch this team last year? I understand the run blocking is not great. First of all, who cares? It's way more important to be a good pass blocking offensive line. Ask Joe Burrow, ask Patrick Mahomes. They had to bench Kingsley Suamataia because a 75% win rate is crazy low. Like these guys are normally in the 90s. You lose like 2 or 3 times in a game. It was crazy to me at the time. And you can go back and check the receipts, check the shows. We talked about this multiple times over the course of the offseason. The Packers offensive line, the infrastructure was being disrespected. And on Sunday, they played like they knew they were being disrespected. They played with an attitude, with a physicality, with a don't mess with us mentality that we just haven't seen very many times over the years. And I don't think it's a coincidence that Josh Jacobs was someone that the Packers sought out. 30 plus carries. I don't think Aaron Jones has had 32 carries in an NFL game in his career. Josh Jacobs did it in his second game as a Packer. Clear, the Packers brought him in to be this level of workhorse. They were never comfortable doing that with Aaron Jones. Mike McCarthy was never comfortable doing that with Aaron Jones. And Mike McCarthy and Matt LaFleur, not dumb offensive coaches. This offensive line is good enough to hang with any defensive front in the game. Now, they're going to have to be because Harold Landry, Jeffrey Simmons, they're coming up. Devondre Sweat has played really well early in his NFL career. They're going to get a test in week 3. They're going to get a test in week 4. This Minnesota Vikings front has been beguiling teams all over. Going back to last year, the Packers had a good plan for them last year. We'll see. Brian Flores made some tweaks, made some personnel changes. We'll see what he's got. Maybe the Packers have Jordan Love, and maybe that changes a lot as well. Back tomorrow, we have Lily Zhao on Wednesday. We have a crossover Thursday. Our pal Tyler Rowland is back, baby. And then an interview coming on Friday. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter, Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast wherever you get podcasts. And then go check us out on all the social medias, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, so you can stay Locked On Packers.